So I was having a conversation with some people, of course talking ReZero. Discussion ended up turning to a topic I'd never thought about before. Who is the best King's candidate? We were not discussing who looked the cutest or anything of that frivolous nature. We actually had a conversation on who would win the election and who would be the best king. So because of this discussion and this topic, which is something I never thought about, I decided to make this video. I think it would be quite interesting to see the ins and outs of these potential kings. With that being said, who do you all believe is the best king's candidate? Comment down below on why you feel that way towards that person you chose. Now let's get on to the topic at hand. First up, let's discuss the first person to introduce herself, Priscilla Barriel. Priscilla is an arrogant, egocentric, narcissistic, inconsiderate, self-regarding, self-centered, self-absorbed, self-seeking, self-interested, self-serving, and prideful woman. Using all of these adjectives, I'm pretty sure you can see what I'm getting at. Because of her pampered lifestyle as a noble, her mind has been molded to believe that the world is made in her favor. Every single moment, every single second, every single phenomenon happens for the superior sake of Priscilla. She detests those who do not obey her commands, believing that anyone who does not follow her every order is utterly useless and is nothing more than spit or dirt on the pavement. As an added bonus to her prideful personality, Priscilla is a well-capable fighter. From what we have seen, she is the strongest king's candidate, but while going into spoiler territory, Priscilla's display during season 1 of the anime showed off a fire wind attack. She aimed this at Felt for not minding her tongue in her presence. However, this attack was immediately stopped by Felt's knight, Reinhard van Austria. Her next instance of strength was shown when Subaru was at one of his lowest points. Seeking help from anyone, he was forced himself to see Priscilla. Priscilla told him she would offer her help if he were to kiss her foot. Attempting to kiss her foot, Priscilla grew angry at the fact that Subaru would lower his pride so low. Priscilla then proceeds to throw Subaru across the room. Seeing him toss and tumble, he was thrown from a distance from her throne to the door, displaying her strength being able to throw him such a far distance. She is a cut above the rest and can't handle herself in a fight. As for the royal selections, Priscilla's declaration had nothing to do with her plans as ruler. During her speech, she stated, "This selection is pointless. I am the one suited to rule this nation. All you need to do is serve me and grovel at my feet." Priscilla presented herself as a spoiled monarch who believes in totalitarianism and is going to rule as a dictatorship. Being as king, Priscilla will most likely start the most controversy of the king's candidates because of her prideful nature. I believe she would amass a large following through her forceful nature and killing off the ones that disagree. Priscilla as king is kind of up in the air. What I mean by this is how arrogant and strong she is. She can easily gain a following, but because of her personality, that can also hurt the kingdom. The way Priscilla acts will rub many the wrong way, causing for uproar and riots and anarchy. Having Priscilla as king would be a double-edged sword. She could be a good ruler because she is strong-willed, and some may take a liking to that, with her personal strength as a significant bonus. Although, as I mentioned many times, that self-absorbed personality will rub some people the wrong way, so I believe Priscilla is a good leader, but her methods of ruling would not be for everyone. I can see Priscilla winning the royal selection, and I believe Priscilla is the second best candidate for being the ruler if she were to win the royal selection. Next up, we have the second candidate to introduce themselves, Cruz Karsten. Cruz is honest, sincere, righteous, hardworking, understanding, calm, and serious. Cruz, from the point of view of a Lagunica citizen, is most likely the ideal candidate for the role of king. She already displays excellent leadership and great diligence by being the matriarch of the Karsten family. Much like Priscilla, Cruz is a well-capable fighter, having displayed her strength with her attacks on the White Whale. Cruz is more than adequate when it comes to fighting. Also, she is one of the 2 royal candidates that are stronger than their knights. With her knight being Felix Argyle, Felix is a magic user primarily focusing on healing. Using his magic for offense is not Felix's strong suit. Declaring at the royal selection, she said, "Should I become the new ruler, I will make the dragon forget the covenant it demanded. The dragon's empire of Lagunica belongs to not the dragon, but to us." Cruz plans to take down the staple or founding foundation of the kingdom of Lagunica. She believes that she must sever the tie between the kingdom of Lagunica and the dragon Volcanica, whose influence she suspects warped the way Lagunica was supposed to actually be. Cruz presents herself as a self-proclaimed, self-righteous socialist who practices anti-disestablishmentarianism. Cruz is an excellent leader. She is optimistic but not foolish, understanding but not naive. The kingdom under her watch will be very prosperous. She is kind but just. During her conversation with the mentally maniac deranged Subaru, he screamed and demanded her to use her army to help Amelia from the witch's cult. Assessing the situation, Cruz analytically took in everything into account and refused to help Subaru. She stated she has no problem helping, However, the risk versus reward factor outweighed each other heavily. By expanding her resources to help Emilia's faction, that would be a detriment for Emilia's campaign. This will prove that she cannot run and organize her own faction, and displays her ignorance to such a high degree that no one would be comfortable with her ruling the kingdom. Also, what would Cruz be getting out of saving Emilia's faction? Absolutely nothing, making her and the Cruz faction a prime target for the Witches Cult. This manner of display shows Cruz's level-headedness, optimism, and lack of naivety. Cruz as king will be quite fulfilling in terms of the ideal king. The problem I said with Priscilla is her arrogant personality may cause anarchy. However, I don't see that being a possibility when it comes to Cruz as ruler. Cruz is quite fair and understanding. As I said previous, Cruz's philosophy of ruling follows along the political ideal meritocracy. Ones who wish to rise in rank, power, or status cannot be born or paid to a higher lifestyle. They must prove through their abilities of said job in order to improve their circumstances. With Cruz, every person will be evaluated on the contents of their character, not their social or economic background. This allows for someone like Felt, who is quoted as a gutter rat from the slums, to rise up to the status and power of nobility. As long as she is able to prove her worth for the kingdom through her skill and capabilities, this is an honest and earnest way of showing equality to all people, no matter human or demi-human. Succeeding in the strength category, politics category, and overall understanding of others and how the world works, I very well can see Cruz winning the royal selection, with the margin for competition being a mildly large gap. She does not have to worry about people defying her because she is so understanding. She can work out a compromise to make everyone happy. Even though she is not my favorite candidate, looking at her credentials, she is the obvious choice for the next king of Lagunica. Our third candidate, proceeding from Priscilla and Cruz, is Anastasia Hoshi. Anastasia is a greedy little gal. She is nice, kind, smart, crafty, manipulative, calculating, devious, and conniving. Anastasia, hailing from the background of money, politics, and greed, she lives to satisfy her own selfish desires. As stated at her declaration at the royal selection, I am a greedy gal, so I want everything. No amount of commercial success can satisfy me. I want my own nation. Anastasia is a capitalist pig with the belief of money ruling everything, believing in the political structure of capitalist oligarchy. Much like Cruz, she has experience leading others. She is the head of the Hoshin Trading Company, signifying that she understands how the business world works. Especially looking at this from a mindset of how well each candidate helped the economy of Lagunica thrive, she is by far the best candidate to do so. Looking at her background or what she has shown so far in the story, she can get the kingdom flourishing through her manipulative nature. The obvious moment to pull from the show is of course her conversation with Subaru. Approaching Subaru, appearing to be nice and considerate, she pretends to be on his side and help him with his problem. Growing happy with Anastasia's response to his plea, he became relaxed. Towards the end of the conversation, Anastasia did not help Subaru and went on to say the only reason she was talking to him was to get information unknown to her. By looking at his eyes, mouth, and expression, she had gained a lot of information, setting Subaru up from the very start with a conversation he had no idea that it was possible to lose. Setting everything up to work in her favor, she had a contingency plan in case Subaru were to even get violent. Not only did she fill the bar with her royal soldiers, but the one she kept close to her was one of the highest ranked soldiers in her military, Mimi. In short, you see how conniving and manipulative Anastasia can be. Having a strong military might with the backing of the Iron Fangs, she lets her military does all the fighting. I say this not because she's a leader that lets everyone do the fighting for her because she doesn't want to do it, but I say this because she cannot do the fighting. Anastasia by far is the weakest of the royal candidate in terms of physical strength. Being a physically strong leader is not everything that makes a great leader, but I do believe that being physically strong helps when one is looking for an ideal leader. It is sort of like a checklist. Physical strength is not a requirement, but it is a useful skill that is preferred. As ruler, Anastasia will practice cronyism. Unlike Cruz, whose political hierarchy system would be merit-based, Anastasia would be based upon kinship. She is not naive enough to put people in power who she cannot trust, especially people she dictates who serve no benefit for her. However, she will give her friends and associates some political power or a good place within the royal hierarchy. I can see the entire council of men that we've seen during the royal selection meeting being ran by people who are extremely close to Anastasia herself with decent qualifications instead of someone she does not know who specializes in that specific category. As I said before, Anastasia is the best at political science and political understanding. She is definitely the best candidate for becoming king outside of Cruz, with her only fault lacking in the strength department. but that is an extra bonus and it's not a requirement. However, I do believe she will come in third place. I see Priscilla becoming the next king before Anastasia. I cannot explain my thought process on this because I am far too lazy. Even though I think she is more qualified and probably the most qualified candidate, I still believe she comes up short to Priscilla and Krush. The second to last candidate we have up is Amelia. Amelia is nice, soft, caring, strong, selfless, considerate, kind, and good-natured. So to begin this, Amelia is the hardest candidate to sell to the citizens of Lagunica. Her divine features of being a half elf and close resemblance to the Witch of Envy, Satella, is her biggest downfall. Satella is such a legend within the world of ReZero, and you have someone who can be akin to her daughter running as king completely devalues Amelia's political influence. Amelia's characterization for politics of the royal selection displays her as very naive and ignorant in the understandings of political science. Amelia is probably the worst case scenario for the winner of the selection. Her naivety stretches far too wide. To give an example of this, mostly because I always give this example when it comes to her naivety. Back during Arc 1, Episode 3, Amelia was healing Old Man Ra. Teru asked Amelia if she was sure that healing him was okay, because he was part of the gang that stole her insignia. She responded with saying that this is okay and he can repay her with the information because she saved his life. This is where the naivety comes into play. The fact that she is willing to trust some random guy who just put her in danger is the epitome of ignorance. Using this ignorance and naivety to rule and control will not end well. The philosophy of ruling I see Amelia taking is democracy. However, this could turn out really bad for Amelia. She is far too gullible and can be easily manipulated, especially by the likings of someone like Roswell. She believes in equality, as she stated during the royal selection speech. I only have one wish. For all to be equal, I desire to create a nation where all citizens are equal. This proving her political format of ruling, she will try to give everyone an equal opportunity to be heard. I've mentioned this for the other candidates, so I mentioned this for her. Amelia is a very skilled fighter, extremely skilled at that. However, this is frivolous because her political understanding is absolutely horrible. Her leadership is poor. Unfortunately, I have to say this, but she is an airhead who lacks understanding. She is by far one of the worst candidates for becoming king. Last but not least, the last person to introduce themselves at the royal selection, Felt. Felt is the most childlike of the 5 candidates. He is proudful, loud, greedy, and reckless. Felt will definitely be the shortest because I believe we can all agree that she is the worst candidate for becoming king. Having declared the royal selection, I hate the nobility, I hate the knights, and I hate this entire stupid kingdom. I hate every last thing about this damn place, so I'm planning to tear it all down to the ground. Taking the obvious philosophical approach of anarchy, you should be able to see that this will not plan out well. Felt having no proper education, growing up in the slums, there is no possible way for her to win this. The only viable option or way for Felt to win the royal selection is through the use of Reinhardt and his connections. Using Reinhardt, that is her only political knowledge or advantage she has. Other than that, she cannot win this election. But none of that matters really, because if she were to win the entire royal selection and become king, she would just burn the entire kingdom to the ground. So what would be the point of winning at that point? Having gone through every royal selection candidate, philosophy on ruling, and how I believe they're going to rule, please tell me in the comment section what you all think of my thoughts on the candidates, and who do you all believe should win the royal selection, and who is the best king's candidate. That is it for the video. I hope you all have enjoyed. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.